Imagine this. One of your country's most celebrated companies, a global IT powerhouse, and a true symbol of national pride, just vanishes overnight. It confesses that its entire success story was a lie. Well, that's exactly what happened. This is the story of Satyam and how a single email brought down an entire empire.
It was like riding a tiger, not knowing how to get off without being eaten. Now, that's not some kind of business metaphor. That was the actual confession from the company's founder, Ramalinga Raju. And wow, does it perfectly capture the sheer terror of a lie that had just grown way too big to control.
So let's start right at the climax, the day it all came crashing down. We're going to January 7th, 2009, the day that Tiger, from the quote, finally decided to pounce. This was the moment a single email brought a corporate giant to its knees.
So what was the bombshell in that email? It was this number, $1.47 billion. That's how much cash the company claimed it had in the bank. That simply didn't exist. It wasn't misplaced. It wasn't tied up in investments. It was pure fiction. This wasn't just a part of the lie. It was the entire rotten core of the deception.
And you've got to get this. This wasn't some shady, small-time company. Satyam was a titan of India's IT boom. It was held up as this shining example of the country's bright economic future, which is exactly why the confession wasn't just shocking, it felt completely impossible.
To really feel the shock of the collapse, you first have to understand the incredible heights Satyam reached. I mean, how did this company become such a national hero, such an IT darling? Let's rewind the clock and take a look at that meteoric rise.
You know, Satyam's story really ran parallel to India's own economic journey. It took off during the liberalization of the 90s, and then it just exploded during the global IT boom of the early 2000s. By the middle of the decade, they had this amazing list of global clients. And by 2008, and you gotta hear this, it was being celebrated not just for its growth, but for its excellent corporate governance. The irony is just staggering.
And look at this, it just shows you how deeply woven into the global fabric they were. We're talking listed on international stock exchanges, serving a full third of the Fortune 500. They were literally winning awards for being a well-run company at the exact same time they were faking billions of dollars. And with over 50,000 employees, the stakes couldn't have been higher.
So this brings us to the billion-dollar question, right? How? How on earth did a company this big, this famous, this watched, pull off a fraud of this scale for so many years? Well, the answer is a complicated, but devastatingly simple web of lies.
So here's how they did it. It started pretty small and then just spiraled out of control. Step 1, you create thousands of fake invoices for work that never happened. Step 2, you forge the bank statements to prove you got paid for that fake work. Step 3, you use that phantom money to make your revenues and profits look amazing. And the final, crucial step, you lie to everyone, the board, your investors, and even the auditors who are paid to catch this exact kind of thing.
I mean, just look at this table. The gap between what they said and what was real is just breathtaking. On paper, over $1 billion in cash. In reality, almost none of it was there. On paper, great revenue growth. In reality, totally fake. And those amazing profit margins everyone was so impressed by? Yeah, they didn't exist.
But look, a fraud this massive doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It takes a total system failure. The board wasn't independent enough to actually challenge the founder. The auditors, and this is just shocking, they failed to do the most basic checks, like just calling the bank to verify the cash was there. And on top of all that, you had all these murky side deals going on that just happened to benefit the founder's family.
Okay, so the confession is out. The company is in an absolute freefall. The stock is worthless. But what happened next? Honestly, it was unprecedented. Instead of just letting the company die, a frantic, high-stakes race began to save Satyam, its people, and frankly, India's entire reputation.
The speed of the response was just stunning. On day 3, just 48 hours after the news broke, the Indian government stepped in and fired the entire board. By day 45, a new, hand-picked board was running the show. And get this, by day 96, they had managed to auction off and sell the company to a new owner. In just over 3 months, they pulled it back from total annihilation.
And this super-fast intervention was absolutely critical. See, the goal wasn't just about punishment. It was about damage control. They had to protect 50,000 jobs, calm down all these nervous global clients, and, most importantly, stop this one scandal from poisoning the reputation of India's entire IT industry.
This was crisis management on a national level.
So the rescue mission worked. The company was saved. But the scandal itself left some really deep scars. But it also forced some massive, necessary changes. So let's take a look at the lasting legacy of this whole mess, not just for India, but for global business everywhere.
People often call Satyam India's Enron, and it's a really fascinating comparison. When you look at the fraud itself, Enron's was super complex, all about hiding debt. Satyam's was almost simpler, just more brazen. They just made up cash. But the real difference is right here in the response. Enron went bankrupt and was dismantled. Satyam, on the other hand, was actively saved by the government, which led to a totally different outcome. In the aftermath, India moved fast to plug the exact holes that this scandal blew wide open. New laws came in forcing boards to be more independent. Auditors were suddenly held to a much higher standard. And those shady family deals, they were put under a microscope. The country's entire corporate rulebook got a massive overhaul because of this.
Okay, so all of that happened a while back, but why are we still talking about it? For anyone investing or doing business around the world, why is this Satyam case still so incredibly relevant today?
Because here's the bottom line. The Satyam story is a timeless, cautionary tale. It is a powerful, crucial reminder that in any market, but especially in fast-growing ones, corporate governance isn't just some boring buzzword. It's the absolute foundation of trust. And without it, even the most incredible success story can turn out to be nothing more than a house of cards.
And that leaves us with this huge, lingering question that, let's be honest, never really goes away. In a global economy that runs on numbers and trust, the Satyam scandal is the ultimate warning. How can we ever be 100% sure that the numbers we're looking at are real? That's a question that's just as urgent today as it was back in 2009.